So you're sitting down with a cup of tea to do some planning. You're thinking, what are we going to do with the house? Whether you're going to do a whole house renovation or work on a single room, it doesn't matter. You're going to have a budget and you've got to decide where to spend your money. And the big question is all this stuff about insulation worth it? Will it make a difference? Is it going to cost a lot more? Is it a big upheaval? Will we know what to do? Will the builders know what to do? Well, the first thing to say is you've chosen exactly the right moment to think about it, because every piece of work you do on your house is the opportunity to improve your energy efficiency. And if you don't do it now, you're going to lose the opportunity for a number of years, because there's very few people who will make the house beautiful and then rip it all out in order to make it energy efficient. Let's begin with the biggest question of all. Is this going to be worth it? Well, all I can do is tell you the difference it's made to us. I live in a Victorian end of terrace built in 1901. We've reduced our energy consumption by 75%. We used to be using 25,500 kilowatt hours a year, roughly. We're now using less than 6. Our EPC has gone from a D to a B. And we've been told by estate agents that the house is worth 90,000 more than its counterpart because of the retrofit. The overall cost to us, in addition to what the builders were going to do already, because we were building an extension, so we worked out the additional cost of the air source heat pump minus the grant solar panels, the added insulation and the added labour came to about £25,000. So £25,000 for 90,000 more, not to mention the fact that we're comfortable and warm for the first time in 40 years of living in this house. So you make your mind up. The recommendation with energy efficiency is to think fabric first. That means getting the bones of your house right, even if that means leaving some of the beautiful stuff until later. It's a bit like wearing the right underwear when you're getting dressed up. It may not be sexy, you may never want anybody to see it, but it's going to make your final outfit look really good. Well, insulation's the same. It's not sexy, there's nothing to show for it, but it's going to make the end result really positive, comfortable and cheaper to run. Let's begin with insulation. The optimal amount of insulation is between 60 and 100 mil. That's the amount that will give you the best return for your money. The recommendation of fabric first is that you always go back to the brick, which gives you a bit more space for the insulation, but it also means there's no risk of there being damage to the brick which might cause problems in the future, or any bits of the plaster that's blown. So if the work you're doing already on your house is going back to the brick, then it's a no-brainer. Add your insulation in. The only additional piece you'll have to add to that is that you need a carpenter to build out the architrave a bit round the window to accommodate the extra thickness of the insulation. If you live in an old house that's built before the 1930s, then any materials you use will need to be breathable. Now, if that doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry, I'll put a link to another video that will explain it all to you. If it's the original plaster, you need to check, is it in good shape? May be worth removing anyway, because it's going to be pretty old by now. If you know that the original plaster has been replaced with a modern gypsum plaster, then please take that off. That's worth doing anyway, because gypsum plaster is not breathable, and if you put a non-breathable material onto a breathable system, you end up with condensation within the structure of the wall, and that really will cause some damage. So modern gypsum plaster, get it off anyway. If the room you're working on is on the ground floor, then don't forget you need to insulate under the floor as well. Again, in an old house, that will mean lifting the floorboards and putting insulation down within the subfloor void and above the air bricks. Again, there's a video that will show you exactly how to do that. If you're in a modern house with concrete floors, then put down as much insulation over the concrete as you can without disturbing the floor level through your house. And if you can't do that at all, then I understand that rubber back carpets will make much more improvement in heat retention than ordinary carpet. The sister material to insulation is air tightness membrane. It runs behind the insulation, and it means that you're cutting out all of the uncontrolled air. You put the two together and it's like magic. So if you're doing it all, don't miss that out. And of course, there's a video all about it for you to look at. Once you've insulated and you've made it airtight, you've taken out all of the uncontrolled air, but you must put controlled air back in. So it's very important to add the ventilation, and please don't think you can skimp on that. You have to do that. One easy win when you're having work done on your house is with plumbers and electricians who have to make holes into the house for pipes and wires. Now, very often they will make a big hole so it's easier for them to do their work, which is understandable. But if that hole is then left open, then you get a howling gale coming through. And if you think about a lot of pipes being put in, then it really will make a big impact. So talking with the people doing the work, explaining that you want to be energy efficient, asking them to make smaller holes, but also to make the hole good at the end. If the work you're doing on your house includes a new kitchen, remember to think clearly about your appliances. That if you can choose low energy appliances, it's going to save you money on an ongoing basis. I know sometimes they're a little bit more expensive, but they're well worth it. And if you can't afford it straight away, if the structure of your new kitchen will take it, put back your old machine rather than get a cheap one. We did that in our kitchen, and whatever I put on, we don't see any change in the use of electricity at all. So they really are worth it. If you've got this far and you want to make your home energy efficient, then one of the other things to think about is your windows. We automatically think double glazing, but it's also worth thinking about triple. The way to decide is by looking at the U values. Now, U value is the measure of how much heat is lost through a material. So just to give you an idea, if you've got single glazed windows, then you're probably getting a U value of about 5.6. If you've got double glazing but they're old, probably about 2.8. New double glazing will come in about 1.1, 1.2, and triple glaze will be something like 0.6. So you can see that as the lower the U value gets, the better the window is. Triple will of course be a bit more money, but it's not nearly as much as you might expect, normally about 25% more, I think. But if you find the provider that you'd like and the make of window that you like, keep an eye out, because I've seen windows offered at triple for the price of double. So that's really worth looking out for. So when you're working on your house, do anything you can to improve its energy efficiency. It is going to pay off. Just think, if you'd done all that work and you'd got this beautiful home but you were freezing cold, you'd feel so frustrated. That is renovator's regret at its best. So don't let that happen to you. I know it is a bit disruptive, but then living in a cold house and getting huge energy bills is also pretty disruptive. But remember, those beautiful sofas, carpets, lights, they can all go in later. But the only time you can work fabric first is when you're doing other things and you're going through the disruptive parts. So please, let me encourage you to think about your energy efficiency.